Picture this: grains of sand slipping through your fingers. The tighter you squeeze, the faster they fall. Or a flower blooming in radiant color only to wither by nightfall. Life feels just like that. Joys fade. Children grow up. Victories turn into memories. And yet, even knowing this, we hold on as if we could stop time. If nothing is permanent, what exactly are we holding on to? In Buddhism, this truth is called Anicca, impermanence. Everything, your body, your feelings, even your thoughts, arises and dissolves moment by moment. Try a short experiment with me. Inhale deeply. Notice how the breath appears from nowhere. Hold it too tightly and it hurts. Exhale, and it disappears forever. Each breath is proof. Life only continues because nothing lasts. History itself teaches this lesson. The Roman Empire believed its power eternal. Yet its ruins scatter across Europe. The Great Wall of China, once built to hold enemies out, now stands as a monument to the passage of time. Even mighty kingdoms, crowned with wealth and glory, eventually crumble into dust. What remains are stories, reminders that no dynasty, no crown, no empire escapes impermanence. Astrology whispers the same truth. The moon, our closest neighbor, waxes and wanes in a 28-day cycle, teaching us that no state of mind, no emotion, no chapter in life is forever. Saturn, the great teacher, returns every 29 years to strip away illusions of permanence. At your first Saturn return, you learn adulthood is real. At your second, you face aging. At your third, you prepare for release. The cosmos itself is impermanence written in stars. Buddhist stories echo this cosmic rhythm. Siddhartha Gautama, the prince who became the Buddha, was shaken by the four sights: an old man, a sick man, a corpse, and a monk. In that moment, he saw the truth: youth, health, and wealth are fragile, but wisdom endures. Or think of Kisa Gotami, who searched for a mustard seed from a home untouched by death. She found none, realizing that impermanence spares no one. Her grief became her teacher. Even in our own lives, we know this truth. The job we thought we'd never leave ends. The relationship we thought unbreakable shifts. The mirror shows a different face each decade. Like sand slipping away, the harder we fight to hold onto permanence, the faster we suffer. So here on Dharma Veins, we ask the deeper question: if change is the only constant, maybe the problem isn't impermanence itself. Maybe the problem is the way we cling. 1. Why do we cling? Expanded narrative. The human mind is wired to crave stability. Deep down, we long for something we can trust to stay the same, a person who will never leave. A job that will always feel secure. A season of life that will never end. This thirst for permanence is what Buddhism calls tanha, craving, or thirst. But life doesn't play by those rules. Imagine building a sandcastle at the beach. For a moment, it feels solid, like it will stand forever. Then the tide comes in. And no matter how carefully you protect it, the waves reclaim it. That is how attachment works. The more tightly we cling, the more painful it feels when the tide of change inevitably comes. Think of relationships. A parent who clings to the childhood version of their son or daughter suffers when that child grows up and seeks independence. Or someone who once tasted success in business but can't accept that the market has shifted. They spend years trying to recreate a moment that has already passed. Holding on is natural, but it becomes suffering when we deny the truth that everything evolves. Buddhism illustrates this with powerful stories. Prince Siddhartha himself saw the four sights: an old man, a sick man, a corpse, and a monk. What struck him was not just that these changes exist, but that no one escapes them. Old age, sickness, and death spare no one. No matter how rich, talented, or beloved. Even the stars above us tell the same story. Astrologers know that no constellation holds still. Planets move, aspects shift, and the chart that once favored us eventually changes. The cosmos itself is in motion, and yet we act as though our lives can remain frozen. There's a folk tale from Asia about a farmer who found a lotus blooming in his pond. Instead of enjoying its beauty, he worried each day that it might wilt or be stolen. When it finally closed, he cried, not because the lotus was gone, but because he had never truly seen it. Isn't that what happens when we cling? The fear of losing often robs us of the gift of being present. Even in meditation, teachers often use simple images. Hold your breath too tightly, and you feel suffocated. Let it flow naturally, and it nourishes you. One monk compared craving to grasping a hot coal. You burn yourself, and then blame the coal. It wasn't the coal's fault. It was the refusal to let go. Astrology gives us another metaphor. Every planet has a cycle. Saturn, the great teacher, reminds us that clinging to comfort zones blocks growth. When Saturn returns, it pushes us out of what we thought was forever, forcing maturity. Just as tides wash away sandcastles, Saturn's cycles wash away illusions of permanence, leaving behind wisdom if we're willing to see it. So why do we cling? Because our hearts crave something unchanging. But the paradox is this: it's precisely impermanence that gives life its beauty. Cherry blossoms move us not because they last, but because they fall. 2. Illustrative stories, expanded narrative. Siddhartha's awakening began not with philosophy, but with 4 ordinary sights: an old man, a sick man, a corpse, and finally, a wandering monk. Each sight was like a mirror held up to the prince's illusions. He realized no palace walls could protect him from the destiny of aging, illness, and death. What struck him most was that everyone, no matter how wealthy or powerful, was walking toward the same end. The monk, however, embodied another possibility: a life not built on denial, but on understanding. We can see the same truth today. Think of celebrities whose youth is worshipped until time catches up. No amount of money, surgery, or status halts the wrinkles of age. In astrology, Saturn represents this inevitability. When Saturn returns, around ages 29, 58, and 84, it strips away illusions. It says, face reality. Grow up. Accept the limits of time. Siddhartha's 4 sights are Saturn's lesson in human form. Another story. Kisa Gotami, a grieving mother who lost her only child. In her desperation, she begged the Buddha to bring him back. The Buddha's answer was simple but profound: bring me a mustard seed from a household untouched by death. She searched every home and found none. Each family told stories of their own loss: fathers, mothers, children. Her grief transformed into wisdom. Death is not a personal punishment, but the universal law. We live this story whenever we think our pain is unique. But grief is the most shared experience in the human story. Like the stars crossing the night sky, each life shines for a time and then fades. Astrology teaches us that even the brightest stars shift position, constellations drift, and no alignment lasts forever. Kisa's realization was cosmic. Nothing is excluded from impermanence. The Buddha also pointed to a lotus flower, radiant in its beauty yet destined to wither. He asked his disciples to notice both realities. The flower was precious not despite its impermanence, but because of it. Isn't this why cherry blossoms move us so deeply? We know they'll fall, and that makes their brief blooming more beautiful. There's a folk tale of a king who ordered his wise men to create a phrase that would hold true in every situation. After much thought, they gave him a simple sentence: this too shall pass. In joy, it reminds us not to cling; in sorrow, it reminds us not to despair. That phrase is nothing more than another way of saying what the Buddha showed with the lotus. Even in meditation, we see this truth. Close your eyes and follow one breath. It rises, stays for a moment, and falls away. Another replaces it, and then another. None can be held. The rhythm of the breath is the rhythm of the universe: birth, duration, and passing. Astrology echoes this too. Just as the moon waxes and wanes, so do all things in life. The lesson is not to grieve impermanence, but to let it teach us how to love more fiercely and live more presently. To see the old man, the sick man, the corpse, and the monk is to see ourselves. To lose a child, as Kisa did, is to wake up to the truth we all share. To witness the lotus bloom is to remember that beauty's fragility is what makes it sacred. 3. Impermanence is not the enemy, expanded narrative. The Buddha once said in the Dhammapada, verse 277, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. Most of us hear the word impermanence and recoil, as if it's a thief waiting to steal everything we love. But the Buddha taught the opposite. Impermanence is not the enemy. It's the very reason growth and freedom are possible. Think about it. If nothing ever changed, no pain could heal, no winter could give way to spring, and no child could ever grow into their potential. Imagine being stuck forever in your worst heartbreak, or locked into the mistakes of your 20s. Change may sting, but it's also the doorway to renewal. Astrology reflects this truth vividly. The moon cycles every 28 days, teaching us that no emotional state lasts. One week it's full and luminous. Another week it disappears into darkness. But without that cycle, tides wouldn't move, seeds wouldn't sprout, and life on Earth would stagnate. The constant rhythm of waxing and waning is life's built-in teacher of impermanence. In Buddhist stories, impermanence is what transforms tragedy into wisdom. Kisa Gotami's grief became insight because she saw that death touches every household. The same is true in our own lives. When we lose someone, it feels unbearable, but impermanence assures us that grief, too, will soften over time. Tears dry, hearts mend, and space opens for compassion. There's a folk saying, the wound is where the light enters. Without impermanence, wounds would never close, nor would wisdom ever find its way in. In fact, our capacity to love deeply is rooted in this truth. We cherish moments precisely because we know they will not last. A dinner with friends, a child's laughter, even the beauty of autumn leaves, all are precious because they are fleeting. Meditation brings this to life in the simplest way. Close your eyes and follow 3 breaths. Notice, each inhale rises, each exhale falls, none can be repeated, each one dies so the next can be born. If you try to hold onto a single breath, you suffocate. It's only by letting go that life continues. That is impermanence in real time. Astrologers also speak of Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth. Wherever Pluto touches in your chart, something must end so that something greater can emerge. It can feel destructive, but it's never without purpose. Pluto's lesson is the same as the Buddha's. Endings are beginnings in disguise. So impermanence is not a curse, it's the current that carries us forward. Without it, there is no healing, no second chances, no awakening. The lotus blooms because yesterday's seed dissolved. You are who you are today because the person you were 10 years ago no longer exists. Change is the reason freedom is possible. 4. Short practice, expanded narrative. Q am tan. Tieng chuang nan ni. Lan ra roi tan bien. Let's try something simple together. Close your eyes for just a few breaths. Notice the inhale, it arises out of nowhere. For a moment it fills you, and then the exhale carries it away. That breath is gone forever, replaced by another. If you try to hold onto one inhale, you suffocate. Life continues only because every breath is born, lives for a second, and passes away. Impermanence isn't an idea, it's right under your nose. Now, shift your attention outward. Pick a sound around you, a bird call, the hum of traffic, or maybe just silence. Notice how it appears, lingers for a moment, and fades. No sound is eternal. Even silence gives way to the next sound. In meditation, teachers call this, watching the arising and passing. It's a way of training the heart to see reality as it is, dynamic, moving, never stuck. There's a story in Buddhism about a monk who compared life to echoes in a valley. Shout once, and the sound reverberates for a while, but eventually it fades. The echo was never yours to keep, it was always a visitor. Our experiences are the same, visiting, teaching, and leaving. Astrology mirrors this beautifully. Think of the moon cycle. One night it's full, brilliant, dominating the sky. Days later it wanes into darkness. Yet we don't despair at the waning, because we trust it will rise again. Observing the moon is like a cosmic meditation on impermanence. Nothing stays, but everything returns in another form. Here's another short practice. Place your hand over your heart. Feel the beat, steady, alive, but never the same beat twice. Each thump is new, each one vanishes instantly. The body itself is a sermon on impermanence. When you can see change in these tiny things, breath, sound, heartbeat, you prepare yourself for the larger truths, the end of a relationship, the passing of a loved one, even your own mortality. It's like practicing with pebbles before lifting stones. By training with the small, we learn to meet the great changes with steadiness. The message is simple. Impermanence isn't abstract. It's in the breath that just left your body, the sound that just disappeared, The moon that is already changing shape tonight. See it in the small things. And you'll be ready when life asks you to see it in the big ones. 5. The art of holding lightly. Expanded narrative. Attachment isn't just about what we hold, it's about how we hold it. Imagine a small bird resting in your palm. If you grip too tightly, you crush it. If you open your hand completely, it flies away. But if you hold it gently, enough to let it breathe, enough to let it rest, you can enjoy its presence without trying to own it. That's the art of holding lightly. Life constantly puts this lesson in front of us. Parents watch their children grow. If they cling to the toddler who once clung to them, they suffer as the child becomes independent. If they let go completely, they lose connection. But if they hold lightly, offering love without control, they enjoy each stage. From first steps to adulthood. Buddhism tells the story of the Buddha's disciple Ananda, who was known for his deep affection. His challenge was to love fully without clinging. The Buddha reminded him that true compassion is like a lotus in water, rooted, present, but never grasping. Love is strongest when it is free. Astrology echoes the same truth. Think of Venus, planet of love and beauty. When Venus is harmoniously placed, love feels like a gentle embrace, supportive, alive. But when it's afflicted, love turns into obsession, jealousy, control. The stars remind us, love grows when it's held lightly. It suffocates when clutched. Saturn, too, teaches this. When Saturn touches Venus in a chart, relationships are tested, not to punish, but to strip away attachment so that what remains is genuine care, not possession. There's even a folk story of a king who was obsessed with a jewel. He guarded it day and night, never at ease. One day the jewel was stolen, and he fell into despair. A sage told him, "The jewel never belonged to you. What you owned was your fear of losing it." The lesson: sometimes what we're really gripping is not the object, but our anxiety about it. Try a short practice right now. Place something small in your hand, maybe a stone or a pen. First, squeeze it tightly. Feel the tension in your arm, the strain in your breath. Then, slowly relax your grip until the object simply rests in your palm. Notice how your body softens. This is how we can hold people, possessions, even our own identities, not with desperation, but with ease. Astrologers say every cycle asks us to release a little more. When the moon wanes, it invites us to let go of what we can't carry into the next phase. When Pluto transits, it forces us to unclench our grip on what's dying so that rebirth can come. These cosmic lessons are mirrors of the same truth. Kamni is not weakness, it is wisdom. When we hold lightly, we stop mistaking possession for love. We allow the bird to rest without needing to cage it, the jewel to shine without needing to lock it away, the child to grow without needing to keep them small. Holding lightly means living fully, because we are no longer exhausting ourselves trying to stop the tide. Life, like a great river, never stops flowing. You cannot hold the water in your hands, no matter how tightly you try. You can only learn to swim with its current. Impermanence, once feared, becomes freedom when we stop clinging. Because when we see that nothing lasts forever, we discover how to love more deeply, live more fully, and even face death with peace instead of fear. If nothing is permanent, then our task is not to hold on forever, but to hold lightly, to enjoy the bird resting in our palm without trying to cage it, to marvel at the flower even knowing it will wither, to walk with one another through joys and sorrows without demanding that things stay the same. Here at Dharma Veins, we share these teachings not as abstract philosophy but as living wisdom for a world that desperately needs healing. Right now, countless beings are enduring storms of war, disaster, and loss. To them, we send the timeless blessing of the Buddha. May all beings be free from suffering. May they find peace in the midst of change. May compassion arise where fear once lived. Let this prayer ripple out to every corner of our planet, touching those who are hurting, reminding them that even the darkest night is not permanent. And now, I'd like to turn this over to you. Reflection is the bridge from wisdom to transformation. So I ask you, what in your life are you ready to hold more lightly? Is it a memory, a fear, a relationship, or even an identity you've outgrown? Share it in the comments below. Not just for yourself, but so that others who read your words will feel less alone on their own journey. If these reflections spoke to your heart, please subscribe to Dharma Veins and join our community. Together, we can keep exploring Buddhist wisdom, meditation, astrology, and the great stories of humanity, all threads in the same tapestry of impermanence. And remember, every view, every share, every comment helps this wisdom reach someone who may be suffering right now. So once again, if nothing is permanent, the art of life is not to cling but to hold gently. What will you hold lightly today?